Lovers Quarrel. It's a long, sustained quarrel.
What's going on, world?
Hey, everybody.
It's your guy, TJ, Mr. New Cool.
And this is your girl, Dani, your...
Delightful.
No, I realized I didn't come up with one, so I'm going to go off the dome, and I'm going to say your sciatic suffering seagull.
I feel like you've used seagull before.
I might have, but I just came off the top because we were just talking about how your son is probably sitting somewhere on my sciatic nerve, and
allegedly.
I mean, I only had...
It's your body, so you know.
I've never
had the experience, so I can't
You
tell
haven't,
right.
so mind your business.
You were.
And...
I'm a whole whore.
I mean, you said it, not me.
I mean, that's how you treated me, but...
But so TJ called me in here so we could record, and I'm trying to get off the couch to come into the office, and I just, I get the shooting pain down my right butt cheek, and I'm like waddling because it's just like, it almost stops you in your track, like, as far as like being able to like walk comfortably. And I was just literally trying to explain what like sciatic pain is to TJ, and he's just like, I mean, I guess
it's something that us fellows will never understand because we don't have.
I mean,
we can have sciatic issues.
Yeah, like if you have like a herniated disc or something like that, if it's like in your lower back, it can impact your sciatic nerve too.
Oh, so then I know exactly what you're talking about. Because when I used to have my lower back shit, like I used to be able to not feel my legs. Like
That's
I would walk.
Part of it. Did you ever have like shooting like pains
it
or
goes
shooting?
Down your legs.
Yeah, like did you feel like down your butt?
I felt like going down my legs. My legs used to go numb.
Yeah, well that's in the same vein, but mine is like in my butt, and it's just like it's like a shooting pain that makes me feel like I can't like walk straight, and that is yet another joy of pregnancy. I'm 6 months now. Isn't that crazy?
I'm about to drop this album, as my cousin would say.
Oh yeah, you've been calling it a mixtape. But yeah, I can't believe we're already so close. I mean, it felt like it was going so slow in the beginning. Now I feel like, oh my God, like we're at the summertime and I'm about to be large
and in charge.
And yes.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. As we, get through the hottest months of the year, and I'm going to be all big and pregnant. So I love the summer, but this, keep me in y'all prayers, as this one might be a doozy for a change for your girl, because I've never been 7, 8, 9 months pregnant over the summer. Last time I found out I was pregnant in the summer, so it was a little bit different. But how are you, my good sir?
I'm alive. I'm in charge, Positivity. We had a great weekend this weekend, so it's just small things,
It was.
But I'm doing well. I'm navigating being a parent in this world of COVID, and dealing with this attitude that Tatum gives is very new, and I have to learn the patience because I'm just like, the fuck. But I don't want to stifle her growth and who she is.
Yeah,
so,
and it'll pass.
Finding balance.
And it'll pass, and it'll change, and as long as
I hope so. Otherwise, she won't catch his uppercut. One good time.
Well, I'm gonna say this. So like, she's like real on her like sour grape shit. Just to give y'all some context, right? So Tatum is as sweet as she wants to be, as thoughtful, as helpful, as funny, as kind, as she was smart she wants to be. But then sometimes when she doesn't get her way, then it's like, I don't love mommy. I don't like daddy. Or, if TJ does it, then it's like, mommy's my favorite. Or if I do it, then daddy's her favorite. Or
she's an asshole.
Her titi, or her boo-boo, or her grandfather.
Yeah,
or
she's definitely been going to the grandparents a lot lately.
Yeah, and then she, sometimes it's like sour grapes, like in the sense of like, if she wants to jump rope, and I'm like, well, no, let's wait. You're not going to go jump rope in the house right now. I don't like jump roping anyway. I don't want to even go outside. And I'm like, girl, bye. You just were begging to do it. So stop acting like you're upset. So it's been a lot of that. And, to TJ's point, like we're trying to be patient with her, but also correcting it and checking it without like going too ham on her or whatever, because, it's that fine line, because it is, to a degree, it's like it's age appropriate, but at the same time, it's still like, Yeah, like kids.
You know better than I do. I know nothing about kids. I don't know how.
I mean, every kid is different, so there's a
I don't know how some of us become parents.
Listen,
There should be like a test or something to be like, y'all can have kids.
You think you would have passed?
Come on, I have 2 masters.
Okay. Do you think you would have passed?
I have 2 masters. Yes, I would have definitely passed. I'm just saying, but like people think that having kids is like that's the way to save a relationship, or that's the way to do things, and I'm just like, having a child is like hard, and like we're about to have a second one, and that's going to be like
harder.
And yeah, I'm you know,
A whole nother personality to get to know. Literally.
You know, I have a little anxiety about it, but
let's talk about it. What's your anxiety about? Because you never really talk about how you're anxious about anything. At least not this area of our lives. What makes you anxious?
You know, it's just adjusting to another child and their needs and making sure that I'm still there for you and Tatum and work and my family and just life in general. Like it's gonna be a major shift. Mm-hmm. And while I still want 3 kids, I'm still kind of like,
maybe we're good.
Maybe we're good.
I think we can really.
Well, maybe I'll make you a stepmom. We don't know. We'll figure.
Oh my god.
We'll figure this part out.
Well, then that'll be the last episode of Lovers Quarrel. You can do that. You can do your show with the next bitch. It won't be me. I'm gonna have fun changing all the merch to Lovers Quarrel with Keisha and TJ.
I'll just find another Dani.
No.
I'll find another Danielle and be like, listen, I'm gonna call you Dani Love.
There will never be another Dani. Oh my god, y'all. My eye is killing me right now. I feel like my allergies are on 1,000. But I digress. I will just do the show with one eye open. Well, now that we've kind of checked in anyway, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and, you know, feelings about our expansion of parenting as it comes up. Are you ready to get on the elevator?
Yeah, I'm going down, so.
I'm going down/up, so you can go first. Going down.
I mean, I think it goes back to what we were just saying. So, the way I've been feeling this week is that being an adult is trash. Like, you know, how do people have... So this is what I wrote, y'all. How do people have fucking time for anything? I feel like I always have something I need to remember to do, or something that I need to do, but there's not enough time to do it, or I may have the intentions to want to do something, and then I get home and I'm like, I'm tired. But then Tatum wants to do something, and it's like, you know, sometimes I gotta pivot with her, but sometimes I don't feel like doing it. Like I truly don't have the time to do anything, or that's how it feels. Mm-hmm. And that's like, I just don't get it. I don't like being an adult is just trash. Like, they sold us a false dream. Like, when you're an adult, like, shit is better. Nah, it's just trash. When I was a kid, I had more time, I had more opportunities, like, I had less responsibilities, like, you know, just the way I feel, so.
No, I got you. I'm right there with you. Adulting is hard, and there's just never enough time, and, you know, I think I might have brought it up on the show before, but there's this, like, triangle, and what they say about life is, like, it's always different stages of your life. You're just some combination of these 3 things, but 2 you always have more of than the other. And it's time, energy, and money, right? And when you're young and you're a kid, you got the time and the energy, but you don't got the bread. And then when you're in, like, at your stage in your life right now, like you and I are, we have, it's arguably for the most part, the energy and the money, but we don't ever have the time. And then when we're in, like, our retirement age, we've got the time and the money, but we don't always have the energy. And it's kind of like life's cruel little joke that they play on us, right? And I feel you too, because it's like sometimes I'm working and then I'm, like, distracted because I'm like, oh, there's dishes in the sink. Oh, there's laundry to be done. Oh, I need to call and make an appointment for this. Oh, I need to do an Instacart for the house. Oh. And it's always something, like, you're always remembering that something else that you needed to do that you can't get done. And then it's like the guilt that sometimes comes along with, like, I'm tired and I just want to rest and I just want to chill and I just want to scroll Instagram or watch a movie or sleep. And excuse me, y'all, my allergies are killing me. And then you just feel like the level of guilt, like, oh, you're not capitalizing on your time. You're not doing anything. But you know, that's why, but it's still important that we still carve out those moments for ourselves, or we just say fuck it and do what we got to do. Because you know what, some of those responsibilities, while there are some that are absolutely pressing, sometimes like, you know what, those will still be here even after I wake up from a nap or after I spend time with my family, and it'll get done even if it doesn't get done right away. And we just have to get better of understanding, like, not to let those things like linger forever, but that sometimes things can wait. But it's a lot easier said than done, and I've actually been in the same spot as TJ has and still am, because being an adult is definitely like hot garbage on a summer day. So shout out to you for sharing your thoughts. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's it. Being an adult's trash, and this shit is like, being in a pandemic showed me that America's trash too, because the
Hot
expectations of us to like live a life and, you know,
Still be productive.
yeah, like, I don't understand when people don't have finance. Like, I get it. If you don't have the finances to do it, like, you know what I mean? And then you have social media that pushes this thing, and then people, like, we don't have a level playing field, and but we're expected to be productive and do all this stuff, and that's why our kids are going the ways that they're going, because again, this shit isn't even, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The playing field definitely is not level, but you know, we'll figure it out, and we'll just keep trucking along one day at a time, and we gotta just make sure that we're being accountable, but also giving ourselves grace when we need it. And that's what we have to, I think we always need to do a better job of being more gracious with ourselves and with others, because adulting fucking sucks and it's hard, like 97% of the time. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and keep the party going.
You're still down, so
I'm still down. Yeah, that's why I'm gonna keep the party going, and then I'm gonna end on a little bit of an up. So just a quick down, saying a hearty fuck you to the folks at the French Open for, I guess for lack of a better term, kind of like forcing Naomi Osaka's hand when it came to her saying that she wasn't going to do media appearances for post matches at the French Open. I think most people have heard about this in the last couple of weeks, but Naomi Osaka, tennis phenom, and she basically said, like, you know, I'm going to compete, but I have dealt with depression since 2018. For my own sake of my own mental health, I am going to not engage in those media press conferences or interviews right after she finishes a match, because it just doesn't ever, you know, it's not something that she feels like is good for her mental health, because it's stressful, because either you're coming off of a win or you're coming off of a loss and you're feeling a certain type of way. And a lot of times in these interviews, every episode like clockwork,
it wouldn't be TJ.
And I'm just glad that, you know, we're at a place where if and when my phone ever goes off again, he better not ever look at me crazy. So saying that all to say is that the media and the interviewers, you know, a lot of the journalists in the room are trying to get sound bites. They're trying to get like gotcha moments with the questions that they ask. You know, they're very critical of them if they lost, or they are still asking them to say, you know, negative, maybe trying to goad them into saying negative things about some of their colleagues or peers in the sport. And she's like, I don't want no parts of that. And she was willing to pay the $15,000 fine as a consequence for that, which is fine because she's got the bread clearly. And she even said that she would hope that they would donate it to a mental health organization. And these people still, that wasn't enough of like her saying, of just being like, you know, hey, yes, we'll fine you, or maybe we wouldn't. And we understand, and that's whatever. But they wanted to like threaten her with like removing her and not letting her participate in the matches in the French Open altogether. So Naomi did them one better. She was like, you know what, say less. I'll just remove myself from the Open. And it's fucked up on so many levels, because yet again, you have a situation where somebody, particularly a black person, particularly a black woman, is prioritizing their own mental health. And mental health is just as important as physical health, over, you know, the wants and needs of a ravenous media pool, press pool, or whatever you want to call it. And she's being, you know, unfairly treated. And it's bullshit and it's whack. And we're in 2021 and there has been so much conversation around and growth around the concept of mental health and wellness that these organizations, these pillars of sports and things like that, they need to understand that like people are not necessarily all in the same headspace in order to be able to engage in this like side part of their career. You know, Venus Williams, she spoke out about it and she was in support of Naomi, but she's also like her particular approach, and because maybe because of her age or her experiences or who she is as a person, she's like, I make it through these conversations and these press conferences because I know basically can't none of y'all beat me in tennis, so fuck all y'all all whack compared to me, so I don't really care what you have to say. And that's great too. That's a great mindset to have, but everybody does not come with that mindset, or everybody does not assume that mindset. So saying that all to say is fuck the French Open for kind of putting Naomi in this type of situation where she felt like that was the choice that she had to make in order to take the attention, not take the attention away from other players, and as well as to preserve her own mental health. And also fuck them because Roger Federer, who's another huge tennis star, just withdrew as well, but his was for potential like health, like physical health reasons. And it's all like, we wish him well, this, that, and the other. So physical health and wellness takes priority over mental health and wellness. Got it. Cool. Fuck them. And then, but the upside to all of this is that for many of you who are familiar with the Calm app, CALM, they offer to, if I'm correct, pay Naomi's $15,000 fine and the fines of any other players who withdrew for mental health reasons in support of her, because they're all about mental health and wellness, you know, mindfulness and meditation and all that jazz. So that's my little bit of an up, is that at least the Calm app is great. It's a great use of their platform, but at least they're acknowledging like, hey, we see you, we hear you, and we're going to support you. So that's my elevator.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's definitely a different disparity. I mean, it always has been.
Always has been.
100%. I mean, it's always a disparity between male and woman. All right, that's the right terminology.
Men and women, or male and female, yeah.
No, after you can't use female.
You can use female if you're describing something else. You just don't use females as a noun. You use it as an adjective.
This new cancel culture and all the other
so just
stuff.
say men and women.
Men and women. Is, you know, there's a pay difference, but you know the women like Roger Federer, whatever the hell his name is, if he yells in his match, it's okay. If Serena yells, she's not being woman-like. You know what I mean? It's always that disparity amongst.
They draw pictures of her looking like an ape.
Well, I mean that's racism,
Of
but I'm just saying. All right, let's take it outside of this. It's kind of like in Love and Basketball. And when Monica was like showing emotion, she'll get attacked, and they told her to be a woman, and it's like, I'm being competitive. It's a sport.
Yeah.
But I'm just, so it's just that, like, you know what I mean? I mean, they kind of did it with Kyrie, but again, I don't know how the rules work with, like, I don't know what the tennis CBA is. Do they have to speak to the media after and stuff like that, or?
I mean, I guess it's a part of the requirement if you're going to participate in their competition. But otherwise they wouldn't have fines already like outlined for not participating. But it's a thing of like, if I'm saying I'm not doing this because I can't do it, I'm not up to it mentally, and I'm cool with paying the fines, I'm not trying to get out of the fines, why are you going to take the next step and try to threaten to pull me from the games altogether?
So do you think that she should just like retire? Like,
no. She's at the top of her game.
I mean, she is, but if she's not going to conform to what they want, and this is going to be an issue. So if every time they're going to take it to the next level, she's just going to withdraw every time. And then if that's the case, then why even continue playing?
I mean, I think that I hope she doesn't feel like she has. I hope she doesn't get to the point where it seems like she has to martyr herself just to find some respect of her mental health and wellness in her career, in her respective field. But at the same time, like, no, I don't think she should retire. Plus, I mean, at this stage in the game in her career, niggas is coming to see Naomi. You coming to see Serena, you coming to see Venus, you coming to see Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Coco Gauff, and that's pretty much the only people I can name. I don't even watch tennis like that, probably at all, really. And if you're not one of those couple of people, they're not like, you're a headliner. So that's the thing too, is like, if she's gonna take a stand, now is the time to take a stand because she is popping.
Another thing I don't really like about this is how people are trying to say, like, well, she's been playing so well, so how can she have mental health issues? Like, they're trying to, like...
What's a reason you got to be sad for?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just like...
That's people who don't understand depression.
But then if she kills herself, then people are going to be like, oh my God, we had no idea. We were R.I.P. And they're going to be so sympathetic and empathetic about it. But it's just like...
Somebody's telling you, I'm not okay when it comes to this stuff. And it stresses me out. And people act like you can't, whatever. Because... anyone else can miss me with the like, well, it's part of the, it's par for the course. Like, it comes with the territory. You just got to deal with it. But everything that comes with the territory you don't have to deal with it in a certain degree, and especially when it's not good for you health wise. So, like I said, fuck them. But shout out to the Calm app, and of course, shout out to the lovely Naomi Osaka. Keep doing your thing, and. You got more people in your corner than not. So she'll be at the next one. And hopefully they'll know if she's not up in the space to give interviews right after she's been busting her ass on a court for however long, they will respect it and keep it pushing. But now that we've got that done, it is time for our relationship tip of the week. Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I can go first. So my tip of the week is you and your partner... So this one is more so of just partners. Mm-hmm. Unplug. Last night, me and Dani turned off the TV. It turned off by accident, but it was very calming. And we just talked.
It was.
Until we fell asleep. Now, what I will also say with that is make sure that you are speaking with your partners, because it was kind of awkward at first trying to find something to talk about, because it's like we talk all the time, but it's like it's different when it's like spotlight.
Yeah.
But for me, it was very calming, and I think that everyone should, sometimes you just throw a curveball, do something different.
I agree.
So
I enjoyed it after we kind of hit our groove, even though towards the end I was so tired. I was like, how when I get delirious and I start saying stuff, but I don't know if it makes sense or not. But no, I enjoyed it as well. So thank you for that tip. Intentional conversations definitely matter. My relationship tip of the week is definitely from partners, but it can be for anything. Is to be willing to be vulnerable enough to say that you're hurt. We as a society equate being hurt with being perceived as weak, or displaying or discussing feeling hurt as an outward demonstration of weakness. And because we feel that way, our hurt and our pain manifest in different ways. Being withdrawn, acting like it's not even a problem, being really volatile and angry and mean, being passive aggressive, you name it. It runs the gamut. But I think that there would be a lot learned if we all did a better job of telling someone or someone's that what they did or what they said to you hurt you, and this is why. Because people tend to be it's been my experience that people tend to let their guards down a little bit more if they know that you're coming to them not as a confrontation, but as saying hey, what you did or what you said really upset me and hurt me, and I wanted to let you know, or I wanted to talk to you about it, or whatever. So, but that requires a level of vulnerability, and if you're not willing to be vulnerable, then you damn sure can't tell people that you're hurt. And when our hurt kind of manifests in all these other ways, it never leads to anything productive. And I think TJ and I can both attest to that.
Agreed.
And that is my relationship tip of the week. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into our Black History fact. And I'll go first. So when you're hearing this, it is Monday, June 7th. And on this day in 1930, the New York Times agreed to use the term Negro with a capital N. So it says...
Does it really say with a capital N, or are you just saying that?
I'm saying... So, respect... I'll give you a little blurb. It says, respecting Negro demands, the New York Times announced that the N in the word Negro would be henceforth capitalized in its pages. So, that was the... Before that, it was lowercase when they were describing a black person. And then... Based on those demands, they capitalized it.
Capital in our name.
Exactly. I always capitalize the B in black. I don't capitalize the W in white.
Okay.
Somewhere along the lines, I feel like I learned somewhere that you didn't have to. But even if that's not the case, I still won't because, reparations. We were talking about this the other day for black and white cookies.
Yes, yeah, I were. I don't like black and white cookies.
I love black and white cookies, but I eat the white side first because racism. You gotta get your wins where you can.
I guess.
I mean, listen. I enjoy the white side as much as the black side of the cookie.
Do they taste different? Does
Yes.
the white side taste different than the black side?
Mm-hmm. One tastes like vanilla or like a white icing. It's like the white side is a little harder. It's almost like yeah, it's a little bit harder, and then the black side is a little softer.
So it's like real life.
It is.
Black people are softer. White people are hard.
Yeah, I mean, you save the best for last. That's also a thing.
I wasn't even talking about the eating part. I'm just.
Oh.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
But I also one of our friends was here and he ate one and he ate it down the middle, and I feel like that's just chaos. It's like a black and white cookie. You start on one side and move your way to the other. You do not eat down the middle.
Or you just eat the whole thing.
No.
Too much for me.
There's a science to it. I don't know.
First off, they don't even look like they taste good. So.
They taste phenomenal.
Never
but
had
I felt like you choose violence if you eat a black and white cookie down the middle. But what's your Black History fact?
On June 10th, 1946, the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson, passed away from a car crash. Jack Johnson was a champion from 1908 to 1915. And he is most popular for being charged with the Mann Act, because what they knew about Jack Johnson was that he liked white women. So they utilized the Mann Act as a way to catch him and to charge him. He was married to a white woman. People didn't like that. And he liked white women. So
that was his first mistake.
Sure. I think it was more of a fuck you to society. I'm the black champion,
and I'm
knocking out your white people.
I'm
knocking down your white women, and I'm knocking out your white men.
All your Beckys, but wait, what time? What era was this? All your Gertrudes, all your Esthers, all your Pearls, knocking them down.
So, yeah, and I learned about him in U.S. history. So, shout out to Mr. Williams, R.I.P. to him too. But
all the Ediths.
So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for enlightening us. We hope you both all learned something today from our Black History facts, including how to eat a black and white cookie properly.
According to Dani.
And science.
What? What science is in there?
My science.
Okay.
At least I made you laugh.
You did.
Y'all, side note. I had TJ Memorial Day weekend. There was a window of time where I had TJ hysterically laughing, and he can't deny it because there were witnesses. I was making a joke about Lil Uzi Vert, and who has now removed his pink diamond, and but I made some jokes about how someone would have to kidnap him in order to also steal the diamond, and TJ was like busting a gut. And
see, if you were funny, it wouldn't matter because it's just normal. But because you're not funny,
it's because I am funny.
You got to take your wins. I get you.
You just because you never
let the people know about the small wins you get.
You don't give me any credit, so therefore I have to get them where I can. Like you won't like.
Even Kwame Brown scored 10 points.
Who's Kwame Brown?
Exactly.
Is that the one that was it's like from North Carolina or something like that?
South Carolina, yes. He's choosing violence right now.
Is he like trying to fight everybody?
Everybody can get it.
Is he like dangerous? I'm so confused.
No, he was the number 1 pick in the NBA draft,
he was like a bust.
And he was a bust. I wouldn't say he's a bust in the sense that he was number 1 pick and he should have been like the best ever. But he had like 10 plus years in the NBA. He'll have a pension. He made millions of dollars. So
okay.
But people keep on talking about him and shit like that, and now he's just going at everybody.
He's like, meet me outside.
Pretty much anyone.
He went out Charlemagne, right?
He went on everybody. Anyone who talked about him. If he hears this shit, he may come after me.
So what? Who brought him up first? That he even was.
They were talking about him on. I think it's on All the Smoke podcast.
Is that
Steven Jackson?
Is that Matt Barnes?
And Matt Barnes.
Okay.
And Gilbert Arenas. And then
Gilbert. No Chill Gil is one of the most appropriate social media handles I've ever seen.
So yeah.
Okay, well that makes a little bit more sense. I kept thinking when I heard Kwame Brown, I think I was thinking about Kwame Kilpatrick, who was like the mayor of like, was it Chicago or Detroit or something? He went to jail. I kept thinking
he's a brother of Alpha Alpha. We're not going to talk. That's what we're not going to do.
People in Greek's life go to jail sometimes. It's okay.
We're not going to talk about.
I'm not talking
my
about
good brother.
I'm not talking
the
about
mayor of Detroit.
I knew it was okay. Point being
I'm
is
just
that
saying.
Point being is
Don't
that
do that.
I was getting the Kwames mixed up.
Got you.
Okay.
Got you.
Maybe they both Kwames made poor decisions.
Watch your mouth. That's what we're not going to do.
Right.
Anyway.
So now it's time for TJ to try and stump me with his word of the week. He did last episode catch me with a tricky one. So let's see if he can either keep the streak or I can reclaim my victory.
The word is... Now that I'm like reading it, I think you might get it, but whataboutism?
Okay.
Let me make sure I'm pronouncing it right.
Whataboutism.
Who the hell? What accent was that?
It says USA, so.
Whataboutism.
Whataboutism?
How is it defined?
Definition: the practice of responding to an accusation or difficult question by making a counter accusation or raising a different issue. And we know a lot of people who do that.
Yeah, some of them are in this room.
What?
We probably have both done that, TJ.
That wasn't even saying like you do that.
I know. I know you weren't saying that.
I do that.
I'm trying to say. I just said we both done that probably.
That
before.
is crazy.
You think we've never done that in the history of being on this earth? We have.
All right, let me see if I can find another.
Because that was not English. I mean, that was not an English.
Whataboutism.
Okay, that was an American accent.
It actually says British, but go ahead.
Oh my god.
Go ahead.
All right. Whataboutism? WHATABOUTISM. Whataboutism?
Wrong.
Okay.
No, you was right.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that. That was I didn't realize that they like actually made that into like a word, like a real word.
It's a true word.
Is that from the app that you found, or is that like a different?
It is from one of my apps that I use. Yes.
Yes. Do you check that app any other time besides when we record?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like that.
Listen, you gotta try to expand your vocab as much as you can. So
True. Well, thank you for that. I am back on top. I'm going to try and keep my streak going. Let's see if I can like make it to like childbirth. You know, it'd be cool. You know, it'd be wild if I like went into labor while we were recording in September.
run the tape.
He just kicked too.
Aww.
So how do you like it when he kicks?
It's
Or
cool.
or even when Tatum kicked.
I mean, it was cool, but I mean, that gave me anxiety too, especially when you used to be like, "What do you think about the baby?" And I was like, my thing is I just want a healthy baby. So once you start putting this stuff in my mind, like, you know what I mean? So like the kicking to me means he's good.
Yeah.
But if he don't kick or for whatever reason, I'm like, it's something wrong with the baby. So
no.
my anxiety gets the best of
So
me.
even when you feel him kick, you get anxious?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying that like when you used to ask like, what about the baby? Like, what do you think about the baby? I try not to think about the baby in that way because my mind starts wondering like, what if something happens? What if stuff like that?
Okay. But in general, it's like a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're at the point where now like kicks can be felt from the outside. I don't see like body rolls happening yet, but I think they will be here before I know it, where you'll start to like see it from the outside. Even though like my whole belly is there, like he lives like in the lower half, like from like my belly button down. I need him to like, it'd be nice if he were to spread out a little bit, because he's always kicking me in my bladder. So I take that as a sign of disrespect, and we're gonna have some strong words when we meet each other face to face, is all I'm trying to say. But anyway, now it is time for our quarrel, the time you've been waiting for. And if I'm being transparent, this is a conversation / argument that TJ and I had earlier, mid to late last week, excuse me. And it got heated. And I want us to both promise that as we revisit this and kind of hash it out again or recap it.
Get out the house now.
Whatever. That we don't, I just do not want to end on a note where you and I are like in our feelings after we hit stop on the record button, you know? Because it was a lot. So do you want me to like set the scene?
Sure.
All right. So we, y'all know we're having a baby, and he is coming in September. Also, our lovely daughter Tatum is going to be starting preschool, pre-K in the fall, officially. And the context is that where we live in the Baltimore County, pre-K is optional, and then even if you do go, it's only half day, and even if you do that go half day, it's only open to like income. It's based on income and like need. And TJ and I would not, based on our incomes and everything else, we wouldn't qualify for it.
Exactly. Then you make way too much money.
Whatever. I work for the city school district, where pre-K is all day and free. And if you work for the district, there are paths that you could take to enroll your child and into a city schools. So, and on top of that, my sister also works for the city, but she works out of school. And we have a good relationship with our school. So the plan became, we were going to send Tatum this August 30th to enroll her there and have her go there for pre-K, for a bunch of reasons. Because not only is she of age to attend pre-K, but because she's been in the house for will have been in the house for a year and a half essentially, and didn't have consistent contact with kids her age, and needs the socialization, needs the education, all of the above. And would be adults in the building that know her off the strength of my sister, and that's also, a positive when you're finally, introducing your child to school as a whole. Now, but as a thing with that, it becomes the location of this place is like, with no traffic, probably 25 minutes away. With traffic, it could be 35 to 40 minutes, depending on how much traffic there is. And when TJ and I were having the conversation about in those first weeks that after I have the baby, and taking Tatum to school.
Real quick, you said how long is the ride?
I said like with no traffic, it's like 25 minutes. And like with traffic, it's like 35, 40.
It's like 45, 50, but go ahead.
Well, okay, maybe
Continue.
when I took her these last few days, I got there in about 35 minutes.
Okay, continue.
Okay. So saying that all to say is that when TJ and I had started the conversation about like dropping Tatum off when I'm, first, I guess like, fresh out the hospital, and he's on his like strict paternity leave where he's still getting paid, but he's off, and that being it, he was like, TJ kept saying, well, if I'm going to have to take her all the way into the city, I might as well just go to work after. So I had to pause, and I'm like, part of our couples therapy, we're talking about me being more upfront and honest about how I feel and not trying to like swallow my feelings. And so I asked him, like, before I respond, like, do you mean like when you're on paternity leave, like I was like, are you planning on staggering your paternity leave? So it's like the days that you go into work during that time frame that you would just, drop her off and then go into work. And then the other days you would just come and you would come back. And TJ says something to the effect of like, well, if I don't have to use my time, I won't. I'll just go to work and then whatever. And I'm like, so the issue then became, I'm like, I don't think you're hearing yourself in that you're opting, because what I was hearing was like, it's an inconvenience for him to have to drive 35 minutes away to drop our daughter off to school and then come back 30 minutes, arguably, to then spend the rest of the day with us, with me and his newborn son. And I felt like that didn't make sense. I was like, especially because this is only going to happen probably during the time when like TJ's strictly home and like not working because he's on paternity leave, not when he has to do other things or he's working or whatever. Because we do have support system from my mom to my sister, other people around here to help out with that as well. So it led to a really big argument. And, because I just felt like it seemed like he was just upset because he felt inconvenient. So he's kind of like, I'm gonna make the best out of a bad situation, but making the quote unquote the best out of a bad situation also felt like you were choosing to leave me home with our infant child, and I'm healing from childbirth one way or the other, however he gets here. And that didn't feel really fair. And so from there, I wanted to hear I'll give you the floor to tell your side or your thoughts.
So my side is that we didn't have a conversation. It was never discussed. You just told me that this is what I had to do or anything like that. And I mean, even down to Tatum going to school, it was kind of like you told me. So for me, it's kind of like you're making these decisions, but you're not even figuring out how this is going to, what I mean? Like the whole reason of being home is to make sure that we take care of you. So me getting up to take Tatum to school on the other side of town, like if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to have to get up early, I might as well. I mean, I still feel the same way. Not saying that I wouldn't do it, but if I'm going to have to get up and go on the other side of town, then I might, like, is it really me being on leave?
Yeah, because that's an hour out of your morning. Okay. So, I mean, to me it is because...
Yeah. See exactly what you just said. To me.
I just think that...
So to you personally, it makes sense. Or it's feasible because it's to you. So, whereas for me, I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you want me to be with you during maternity or whatever, then...
I should find a way for you to not have to leave to go far.
The way that you're making it seem is like you need me there, so me leaving in the morning.
Yeah, well, an hour is to take our daughter to school.
It's more like 2 hours, 2.5.
It's like an hour.
Okay.
And an hour to take our other child to school where she needs to be. Is in school, and then returning home versus you going and taking her and then coming home, being gone for an hour versus being gone for 6, 7, 8 hours because you've gone to work after dropping her off and you're returning home in the evening. Those two things don't equate to the same thing. It's like I'm running to the store. Like it's a difference between like I'm running a Target versus I'm gonna go hang out with my girls for the day. Like those are two different like expectations of like when you'll be home and what can be accomplished when you're home. And the scenario I proposed to TJ, and you can tell me you can reiterate what your response to this was like, so for argument's sake, if I had Trey on a Monday, I'm in the hospital Monday, Tuesday, they send me home Wednesday. Tatum is home Wednesday too, comes home Wednesday too to meet her baby brother. And she has school Thursday morning. Are you getting up by your logic, are you getting up, getting her together? We're getting her together, and you're taking her to school, and then you're going off to work. And I've had a baby 4 days ago or 3 days ago.
And I said yes.
So I've had either a C-section or I've had a vaginal birth. I've had an episiotomy, maybe. I've had stitches.
The way that you're making it seem
I'm
is
bleeding,
like
I'm hurt.
When you go into labor, I need to make sure we get Tatum to school, and then I can come back to you in the hospital. Like, that's the way that I took it. Like my thing is, let's find the accommodations so someone can get her to school, pick her up from school, so I can be there for you. But if I'm not going to be doing that, then...
Well,
again, I could be wrong in the way that I feel, but this is the way I feel, and I don't care how it's interpreted personally. But so that's the way that I feel.
If you get feedback from this episode and people are like...
I'll take their feedback. I mean, I've never been one to not take feedback, but I can still feel the way I feel. Two things can be true.
You can.
I can believe the way that I believe, and someone can give me insight that makes sense. But
so
my thing is...
Does my insight make sense to you?
I mean, I understand. You want me there, but... So if I didn't have time off, then what?
If you got no paternity leave, then that would be another obstacle for us to face. And then I could understand. If you got no paternity leave, I could understand you then. If you had no paternity leave and you did not opt to use any of your personal time off, and you just had to go to work, even in the, let's say you only took off the days that we were in the hospital, and then you had to go back to work, if that was your job, I could be more understanding of, well, you have to drop her off and then you have to go to work because there's really no other choice. But going to work when you're on paternity leave, that thus is a choice, and you have a choice. And where the issue was lying was, for me anyway, was you use the terms like, I don't want to be inconvenienced, and you feel like dropping her off to school and coming back home because of the distance, because of
if I'm gonna have to get up early to drop her off to school, and I could have just her school's 5 miles away from me, so it's, and again, I'll take it. It could be selfish of me. I'll take that, but that's the way that I felt.
So then,
and I also felt like, again, we didn't have a conversation. You just told me that this is what I have to do.
Well,
there was no conversation like, damn, how are we going to figure this out? Let's map it out. Let's see what days. Because, again, you are going to have birthing or whatever, but it's still going to be a newborn. I'm going to have to be able to adjust to everything and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So even that, who's to say that, what if I'm up from 12 to 7 in the morning, and then I still have to try to take Tatum to school? Like, to me, it's not even a feasible thing. Like, if I'm home, my job should be to be focusing on you and the baby, not the other stuff.
Well, the other stuff, yeah, but the thing about it is that Tatum doesn't fall under the umbrella of other stuff. She falls under the purview of our responsibilities to make sure that she gets what she needs as well. Like, this is the beginning of us having to divide and conquer our responsibilities to both of our children. So for him, it's going to be, of course, the immediate needs, the diaper changing, the feedings, the holding, the swaddling. For her, it's going to be the experience of taking her to school, the drop-offs, and sometimes the pickups. And what I will say is that when I came to you to discuss it, it was, I guess, I can own it. Maybe I made a presumption, but then also too, when I heard the pushback from you about it and how you felt like you were being inconvenienced, I said to you, like, okay, is the plan to maybe stagger your paternity leave, or do we want to try and come up with a plan of, like, you don't do it every day, but you do it some days? There might be there might come a point in time where, like, yeah, maybe the first week or so, I'll be home, whatever, but then I can start to assume some of that responsibility and you stay home or whatever. Like, but what happened in this case was the tempers flared, or it got too heightened where we weren't able to have that conversation, because I think you just felt I don't know, angered or frustrated at the notion of even being like asked to do this, but to me it felt like a thing of like, these are our responsibilities as parents. And then like,
I think for me it's more of a thing that we didn't have the conversation.
So what let me ask you this though.
The conversation could have been, hey babe, we need to figure out what we're going to do with Tatum. This is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And then we come down and map it out. That's different than saying, this is what you're going to do.
So you felt like I was telling you what to do. Is that why you
That's
feel
what
like
I said. You voluntold me.
So you felt like I voluntold you. And then upon feeling like I voluntold you, is that more why you dug your heels in about this? Or
I don't know if that's why.
Or do you feel like you would have responded the same way even if we like, if I said let's have the conversation and I made it
I think that if we had a conversation, it would have been different. I mean, I think that's... My thing is just, again, the last time we had whatever conversation, like, again, Tatum going to school. We talked about that previously.
Mm-hmm. We talked about it a lot.
But we didn't talk about it recently. You made said decision. So, again, for me, it's kind of like, let's have the conversation. Like, I would never just do something and be like, Dani, well, you got to do it. Period. I would ask you, like, hey, how does this work for you and stuff like that. So that's where my mindset. Again, yes, Tatum is our child and stuff like that. I'm not taking that away. I'm not saying that we don't need to do what's best for her. But like I said, we could have looked at other schools. We could have done other things. We did look at other schools. At least I did. Mm-hmm. But you were comfortable with whatever it was. This is the easiest way, and that's it. And for me, it's kind of like, you don't always go with just the first option just because it's there. Like, typically, the rule of thumb is you get 3 options so that way you can have an opportunity to decide between them.
Okay, so
but again,
I wasn't just choosing, or I wasn't just suggesting the arrangement that is current right now because it's the easiest option. I did it because I felt like, and up until recently, I believe that based on our previous conversations, we were on the same page that this was what was best for Tatum, and then also it made the most sense as far as her being familiar with the environment and the people in the environment, the fact that it was free, the fact that it was all day, because, you know, our options as far as where we live would be limited, if not none, because of the income base, the need base, the half day, or when we even looked into like a Christian school that would cost tuition and stuff like that, the school you brought to the table, we both of us, when we talked about it, were like not uber impressed with like the spiel or the presentation that they gave as far as the things that they offered. And so then that made me feel like, okay, we were on the same page again on that. So it brought us back to where we were. Not saying that we can't revisit it for kindergarten or maybe when she starts like early elementary, like first grade or something. But you know, I could say I'm not trying to tell you to do anything. I do sometimes try to come up with a proposed plan, or I try to say like, this is what, you know, I feel like, you know, I think is best, or what do you think about it? Because sometimes I also feel like is that when I come to you and I say, hey, we need to have a conversation about this, or what are your thoughts on this? You know, depending on where your head is at, you know, it's kind of, sometimes it could be a bit hit or miss. It could be like, you don't know what to add, or you're like, I don't really care, or you just know what you don't want, but you don't know what you do want. So that makes the conversation to have, the planning process, sometimes all the more difficult to have with you, because it's like trying to like peel back the layers of an onion and get to the root of it, versus it being like an exchange or a dialogue of things and an exchange of ideas. So I have grown accustomed to trying to come with you with like a pitch or a kind of an outline of like, hey, this is what I think, how I think this could go, or how I think we should do this, or based on, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm taking you and your thoughts and your feelings and your schedule and whatever you have going on in your life, I'm taking all of that into consideration, and I'm like, here's what I have, because sometimes it's been my experience that coming to you with like a semi-formed plan is better than coming to you with like, I got nothing, you got nothing, let's talk about it together, because then we'll end up spinning our wheels. Because I know, like, I'll suggest something and you be like, no, not that. Or then I'll say, okay, what about this? No, I don't like that. So it's been my experience, like I said, to come to you more with like a semi-formed or fully formed plan and be like, hey, this is what I think we should do. And then maybe we tweak and adjust in certain ways, or then I get the feedback versus trying to come to the table and have the conversation, because sometimes it's difficult to have the conversation with you. Because sometimes you like I don't want to seem like really trivial, but it's almost like sometimes when we try to figure out what to eat for dinner, you don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's because eating food is a little bit different because I don't always just be hungry. Like
I know. And I said that's why I said it's a trivial comparison, but it's just the idea.
I know, but so that's the difference. I think for me it was more of a thing of you told me this is what I had to do. There was no discussions of it. And then again, for how long? What is this going to look like? Is there going to be teamwork with picking her up and dropping her off and stuff like that? Again, you're nodding your head, but that was not discussed, and that's the difference. So yes, I like plans. I need to know A, B, C, and D, or A and B, and hey, I'm gonna get C and D in 2 weeks or whatever. But I like to know plans, not just feeling like it's on a whim, and that's how I felt in the situation.
And I felt like we got stuck on A. Like I couldn't get to B, C, or D, because as soon as I said A, it was like, hold up, I don't like this, whatever, you know. Because at one point you even said like, you either, you know, went along with the school plan for her, even though you might have had your doubts or your reservations or whatever, but like you went along with it because you didn't think that I guess maybe because you felt like you were not included in the final decision making of that. You were like, well, I'm not going to be impacted in any way by this ultimately, so whatever. But then you felt like me saying like, hey, for at least the 2 weeks that you're on like full-time paid paternity leave, I would need you to drop Tatum off, and then, you know, you could come back home, and then, you know, my mom can handle pickup or whatever or whatnot. Like we got stuck at A.
We never had the conversation. So that's the biggest thing for me.
But I think we got stuck as I think we got stuck on the first part of like you dropping her off, and then once you heard that, that's where me and you got bogged down in the weeds about that part of the plan.
Possibly. I mean, it could have been how you delivered it and all the other stuff. I mean, anything is possible with that. I can't speak of the what ifs and what could have been versus what it was, but that's what kind of triggered me. It's like
you felt like you were being told what to do, so that just kind of sent you.
I felt like we didn't have a discussion. Yeah, I mean, again, when you're married, it's a couple decision. It's not a Dani decision versus a T-Day decision, or it's not just one person makes a decision. That's how it goes. It's a couple decision, and we didn't have that decision. You made the decision and said, "This is what needs to happen," pretty much, or at least that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, that's not how I intended for it to be conveyed. It was more like, I'm trying to think ahead. I'm trying to plan ahead. We're gonna have some support, but then, you know, there's gonna be things that you and I are gonna need to do, and that is part of the trying to like think 3 steps ahead was not me trying to move forward without you in the planning process. But I'm curious though, so that way, you know, we're having a much better exchange about this than we did last week. And we don't have to necessarily hash it out on the show, but have you thought about what a better, or what like a compromise or a conversation of a plan would look like? Like, what have you given it that part thought since we've been in a better space, and B, like, now that it's more clear about like where your issue lied or your trigger lied? Like, what does a plan about this school pickup drop off thing look like to you? You don't have to say what exactly it is, but like, do you have an idea of what you think would be a better, a middle ground?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm gonna drop her off, or we'll figure it out. like my thing is, again, we don't even know what that's going to look like. So, maybe I'll get my mother to come down here and then she can take Tatum to school and pick her up. I don't know what that's going to look like. Because, again, I don't know. Every baby's different. Every pregnancy is different. So, again, it's kind of hard to say this is what we're going to definitely do. Because I don't know how tired I'm going to be. I don't know how tired. I don't know any of these situations.
There are some factors, there are definitely some variables. I will give you that. But there are things that we can plan for if we have to adjust because of certain things.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
Again,
but
what happens if one
outline.
night you have a postpartum and you don't want to deal with the child, and I'm dealing with them all night, and then I have to try to drive Tatum to school in the morning, and then I get into a car accident because of again, this is where my mind goes.
Okay.
I'm thinking about everything. And again, you were thinking like, oh, it's just going to be so simple. You wake up, you go ahead and do that. But again, we don't know what it is. And that's my point. We did not have a discussion to exactly explain how we're going to attack this and what it's going to look like. What's our plan A, plan B, what's our plan? We didn't do any of those things. So for me, again, you made the decision that, hey, this is what you're going to do. And to me, that's not fair.
Okay.
So,
and I can understand that part of it, and then the part your response to that, because it wasn't your initial response wasn't like I feel like I wasn't included in the planning. I feel like I'm being just told what to do. Can we come up with have more of a deeper conversation?
Okay, in the same way how your planning wasn't, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and it wasn't like that.
I understand.
So
I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is that we can. I'm hearing you better than. Like, so you were just saying what your grievance was, and what I'm saying is that, and then in response to that, you're feeling triggered. Your response to that was what like triggered me, because it felt like, well, I'm gonna just go to work afterwards, so all I'm hearing is like he's gonna like drop our daughter off and then leave me for 7 hours a day to go to work, and we've just had a new baby, and he's supposed to be on paternity leave, but he's going to work.
Yeah, well, if I have to drop Tatum off to school 7 o'clock or by 9 o'clock, I'm going to be up anyway. So, yes, I still feel the same way. Like, paternity leaves me, I'm going to be at home with Danielle. If I'm not going to be home with Danielle, then I can go to work.
So, does the leaving the house altogether period mean that, or is it just because you have to go a bit of a ways away? Because you could be going to, like, it'd be like you could be going to Target, or you could be going to the grocery store, or you could be doing...
The way that I look at it is that I would just be home to help you. But if I'm going to be traveling and doing stuff, then I might as well be traveling and doing other stuff.
So what I would say to you is that, like, being on paternity leave, being on maternity leave doesn't mean that, like, you're just 24/7 in the house with the baby. Now, you are in the house a lot of the time, but there's still things that need to be done, or sometimes you just want to, you might want to, you might have to drop off packages, or you might have to run to the post office, or you might have to do those things. But it doesn't mean that, like, the second you leave the home, you could be doing something else with your time. I do agree with that, but me knowing me, it's very black and white thinking.
If I had to go an hour to drop off packages, them packages won't be dropped off.
Well, those are packages, and then versus, our daughter and her formative years and her education. And so, like I said, I'm willing to have the conversation, so that way we can try to find like a middle ground, so that way you don't you feel more like included in the conversation, so that you don't feel like you're being voluntold to do something, because that was not my intention. But obviously we know that does, just because someone didn't intend for something to sound a certain way doesn't mean that it wasn't received a certain way. And then we can find a middle ground of what that would look like, and that way, and we come up with a plan A, plan B, because there are going to be things that we have to plan for that have to be constants, like like the constant, or the what's it called, what's the opposite of the variable, the baseline is Tatum has to get to school. The variables are who's bringing her, or and that we have to discuss, and we can come up with like a plan A or B or C about that, or whatever. When this baby gets here, no, we do not know what our days and our nights exactly are going to look like. We're both, I can surely account on being tired and sleep deprived at sometimes or whatever, but this is also, I guess the way I look at it too is like, this is something that I know I signed up for. So I would never try to put you or myself or our children in harm's way or anything like that as far as sleep deprivation or as far as anything else like that is concerned. And so to your, hypothetical story, if it was a night that I'm having a hard night and I needed some sleep and you're up with the baby all night and in the morning, then that could be a day where I'll take her and then I'll come home. So that way that's one less thing you have to do. And it's a trade-off.
Who's to say that?
That's also accounting for the variables.
We never had that conversation. So that's the difference.
Okay. That's all
I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. And what I'm saying to you is that our responses. I'm not putting the onus on you. I'm owning my part of like, I made TJ feel like I was just telling him what to do as opposed to saying like, let's have a conversation. And then the part I'm saying to you is like, you, in response to that trigger of feeling like you were just being told what to do, you weren't included in the discussion. I just kind of came up with a plan and told you it. The way you're telling me now, the way you're talking about it now was had you delivered that to me in response, would have been like us getting to that point of having where we are now.
It would have been what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Somewhat.
Had you come to me and said, "Hey, babe, listen, we gotta." Taylor's about to start school. We need to come up with a game plan. Then I may have had a different response.
Absolutely, so
either way, it's
of course we can, and that's why I said it's a shared ownership. Like that's the thing. It's a shared ownership of I could have approached it differently, and you could have responded differently because that's what happens. But sometimes we tell or respond, and based off of our past experiences or based off of our triggers that we may or may not even realize are there or whatever. So now that we know that, we can have the conversation so that way you're not left feeling like you've just been told what to do, and you're not feeling so like, I don't know if the word frustrated or inconvenienced or whatever combination is, you're not left feeling so much that way. And then I'm not feeling so much like of he's just trying to, he's mad. So he's just going to like, he's mad that he has to do something because he's inconvenienced. So now he's about to just like go off into the sunset every day from the time this baby comes home. And we won't have that. He won't be on paternity leave the way that he and I both imagined him to be to some degree. Yeah.
I mean, again, I imagine myself being home and not driving 7 counties and all this other stuff, but
you're exaggerating. It's not 7. It's 1 county. It's a city county line. So
it's like 7 counties.
It's not.
And in the morning, like I'm gonna have to leave at like 6:30 in the morning just to get there at 9.
You are absolutely dragging it. I left at 8 and I got there at 8:35.
Okay. Must have been a good day.
It was. I went 2 days in a row, and it was 8. I got there 8:35. School starts at 9. So
bad remedy for all of this.
What?
Don't have kids. Good night, y'all.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a joke. We're gonna figure it out.
We are gonna figure it out, and this was a much better dialogue than what we had last week. So I'm proud of us for that, because this is the type of conversations that we need to have, even when.
Well, it's all about the approach, Dani.
It's 100% about the approach, and it's another 100% about the response, and that's so.
Okay, but what comes first, the approach or the response? The approach comes first.
Yeah, I understand that, but TJ, we've both been on both sides of that fence, and so we can definitely say, like, if you feel like somebody approaches you wrong, there's a choice to be made as far as like how you respond, especially if you're feeling a way about it. Like, you can respond just presuming that this person is that their intentions are what, as you interpreted it, are accurate, or maybe you want to dig a little deeper. So when you said what you said about I might as well just go to work, I texted you back and I said, before I respond, I asked a question, because your approach so as far as your response to me, before I responded back, I wanted to clarify, because I was like, before I jump out the window in assuming that TJ is doing the most, or he's being extra, or he's not thinking right, or whatever which way I wanted to take it. I'm like, let me get an understanding of where he's coming from. Let me put this into context. So that's what I mean by you got to have some, the approach matters and the response matters. Sometimes one more than the other, sometimes both equally. It just depends on the scenario, and it depends on the people. And I think that this was an instance where it was definitely like a shared thing of both, because we ended up in a really dark spot a couple of days ago when we tried to have this conversation.
Because your approach was trash. And my response was trash. I'll take accountability for it.
My perceived approach to you was trash. I know that wasn't my intentions, but I can own that part as well, because you felt like you were being told what to do. That was not my intention, but I can understand and respect that that's how you received it. And so, and then feelings were hurt, and things were said and everything else like that. And that's not the type of energy that neither of us need to be on as we are preparing to welcome yet another life into this world. This really should be like this should be a happy time, but it's going to be a little bit more different and a little bit more complex, because we have to, and this is just one of many times that you and I are going to have to navigate two humans' lives and steer them in the right direction, and have the conversations and come up with plans and come up with backup plans and be prepared for all those plans to go out the window if something else happens, because they need us, and they need us to be the best versions of ourselves, and they need us to, sometimes it's going to be united front, and you're going to take it on together, and then sometimes you and I are going to have to divide and conquer depending on what it is. But I
also think that you have to just allow things to go. Like you want to pre-plan and everything, like we can plan things, but we need to be open, because again, you didn't want to have a C-section, you had a C-section. You wanted to breastfeed, you were not allowed to breastfeed. You do this thing where you throw expectations out there and expect it to be that way. And then when it's not, you're like devastated and stuff like that. Whereas I may have an inkling, but I know that everything is ever changing. Nothing is guaranteed. So I'm not going to fall in love with something until it's there, or until it presents itself. Because again, if I have the mindset that every morning I'm going to wake up and be able to do A, B, C, and D, and it doesn't happen that way, I'm going to feel like a failure. For TJ, I can't speak for anybody else. So, but you have a tendency of thinking like things are going to be perfect, and as opposed to just being open-minded. Like all I want is a healthy baby. I don't care about the sex. I don't care about anything else. I just want him to come out healthy. I don't care about when he comes. I don't, like, if he comes early, if he's healthy, cool. If he comes late and he's healthy, cool. That's all I care about. Whereas you're going to be like, I hope he has jet black hair, and I'm paraphrasing, Danielle, because you're making a face.
I was a little confused, but yeah, go ahead.
You have expectations of things, and then when they're not what you expected or what you thought it was going to be, then you're devastated or you're upset.
Well, I can definitely understand that I am sometimes like that, but the beauty in this not being our first child is that some of those things I've gotten a lot better at letting go of and not holding on to that. So like, we met with our doula this weekend, right? And one of the things I said to her is like, when you're pregnant, if anyone who's ever been pregnant, you might have heard the words birth plan or whatever. I'm like, I'm not even calling it a birth plan this time around. I'm just going to call it like an outline. Like it's an idea of the things I want to see happen. But I understand that when it comes to bringing a child into this world, there are too many variables and too many things that could change up at the last minute. And that's fine. And I accept that. But there are also things that I'm not saying that they like, these are these like hard, finite plans that like, they're hard and fast, and there's no changing them. But there's also a component of everything doesn't have to be we'll find out when we get there, or we'll see what happens when we get there, and flying by the seat of our pants. Some things you can prepare for ahead of time, and just also keep in the back of your mind and be mindful that they could change. Yeah. So I think it's just like
but you and I just have to find that, and a lot of times you do not have that. If something changes, you're okay with that.
Well, I think when it comes to matters like this, I think I've gotten better at understanding and being more like resilient in the things that change. Like in the most simplest terms, I feel like I do agree. I tend to overthink, but I also think that you tend to underthink things, and it's just like we just have to be in the middle.
It's underthinking to you because you want me to have like. I don't always have to show my hands to say that I'm thinking or not thinking. Like, you want it to be the way that you want it to be, and that may not be the way that it's going to be.
Well, that's true, but the thing though is that it's me. I want to know. Even I don't want. You're saying you don't want to show your hand, but I want to know. Of all people, like, even if you don't have all your thoughts sorted out, and you don't have to have everything. Like, again, it doesn't have to be any type of bulleted list or anything like that, but I want to know what you're thinking and where your head is at, because then that way it'll help. You could bring something up that I would have never considered, and I could be like, oh, that's a great idea, or oh, this sounds like something I was just thinking too. But I can't operate off of it if I don't know what you're also thinking. It doesn't have to be fully formed plans, but that's what brainstorming is. That's what being a thought partner is. And like, we're partners in life, so we need to also be thought partners when it comes to that stuff. So so that's the thing. I should not, well-intentioned or not, I should not make you feel like I'm telling you what to do, or I'm saying this is what we're gonna do and that's it, or anything like that. But then also too, I need you to sometimes come to me, or when I ask you what you're thinking or whatever, to give me something more than like, we'll see when we'll figure it out, or I'm not even thinking that far ahead or whatever. And I'm not saying that you always have to have an answer right away, but it's like we have to come back to the table.
I know. So I do agree with that, but sometimes you want me to have the answer right then and there, because that's the way that you would do things. And the way that life works is everybody's different. So just because Danielle knows right now that this is what she wants to do doesn't mean that does not mean that TJ is going to think the same way. Not saying that I won't get there, or not saying that, but I don't make stuff just because whatever. Like, if the due date is the 30th, I have until the 30th.
Yeah, but sometimes it's nice to know, like, by the 15th, like, all right, this is what I think we're gonna do. Like, things could change, but sometimes you like I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but sometimes it's like things can't always wait until the 11th hour, because then you're under pressure. Then you might be making decisions more out of pressure, out of urgency. The
only way that happens is if you're not thinking about it. But if I'm thinking about it if it's on the 1st and I have until the 30th, and I'm thinking about it every day up until the day that I make my decision, then it won't be rushed. But again, that's just the way that I...
Okay, but then talk to me from days 1 to 29. And let me know, or let me know twice.
Or you can come to me.
No.
Why do I have to come to you and be like, Danielle, this is what I'm thinking today? No. And then tomorrow I go, hey, just checking in. Like, again, it's very demanding that I have to come talk to you and tell you every day up until I make my decision.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like you have to come to me every day. Like,
that's literally what you just said.
I know.
Okay.
So let me clarify then. What I mean by that is, part of why I'm saying let me know what you're thinking. Ultimately, what I mean is let me know what you're thinking along the way. I'm not saying I don't mean every day, but I also would ask for you to come to me. Sometimes come to me, and sometimes I can come to you and ask you what you're thinking. But I also sometimes know I've had experiences where if I come to you to check in and say, hey, what are you thinking, whatever, sometimes I get the feeling like I'm badgering you.
But it's also about when you come to me and how you come at me and what I'm doing in my life. Like, if I'm at work and you're asking me 1,000 questions through text message, then yeah, you may get a shorter answer. As opposed to saying, you know what, he's at work, he may be busy, let me reach out to him later. Hey, babe, when you come home tonight, let's have a conversation. That works wonders.
Okay.
But I don't get that luxury.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Okay. Yes.
A lot of times I do not.
So I can hear you and I can respect that. And then I also ask you to also sometimes just offer the information as well, because that's also...
I do offer information. When I have it, I offer it. Like, you want it both ways. You want me to offer information. You want me to check in. You want me to do things the way that you would do it. And that's not the way that I do things.
So I want us to meet in the middle. So what does meeting in the middle look like? Maybe we both do a little bit. I do a little asking, you do a little offering. Because I know I'm and
so I never offer.
No, I'm not saying that you never offer, but I'm saying that I think that like our default modes, we have to we're at different ends of the spectrum. So, I'll ask because time is elapsed, and I'm like, well, let me just check back in. But then if you don't have anything, you might feel like you're being bothered. Like, again, so let's say you have this 30-day window, right? The example that you use. And so on day 1, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? I don't know. I have to think about it. Cool. Let's say I don't ask you again until day 15. And on day 15, depending on where your head is at and how much thought you've given it, you might say, all right, I'm saying, hey, can we have a conversation about what we talked about on the first? And you'll say, yeah, this is what I'm thinking, this on the other. Or you could be like, we still have 2 more whole weeks, Danielle. And now like you're asking me now, I still have time to think about it. Why are you asking me right now? This, that, and the other. So
yeah, because
I don't know which side I get. I don't know which one I'm going to get.
You may ask me in the middle of me playing a video game, or I may be on a basketball court, and you may ask me that. Like sometimes, a lot of times, you ask questions when it's beneficial to you, but not beneficial to the other person, the other party that you're asking. I can be doing something, and you don't care that I'm doing something. You don't care that my mind is focused on this because you want your answer right then and there, as opposed to being like, "Hey, babe, I see that you're playing video games. Listen, I want to talk to you a little later. Let me know." That's again, you've never done that. There's never been a time that you came to me with an approach like, I see that you're busy, or hey, are you busy right now? Can you talk? I need to have a heavy talk. Do you have the time? Do you have the bandwidth? You've never done that.
Okay, so I will do a better job of asking that, and I'm not defending that. I think when I think about what you're saying, I think some of that has to do with like me. I have such a hard time, which I'm still working on, of like having uncomfortable or conversation. If I think the conversation is going to be difficult or uncomfortable, I have to like build up a lot of nerve to even like approach the subject. So then sometimes I become to get like it becomes like a diary of the mouth. Like I got to say it right now, otherwise I'm never going to say it. But that's not. I can understand how that could not be fair to you. So I can work on that, saying like, hey, when you have a time, whatever, and then you could come to me and say, hey, now's a good time. What is it that you wanted to discuss, and then we can go from there. So, and I can even preface to say like, hey, this is urgent, or this is like, hey, when you have time. Does that sound better?
Sure.
So there's that. And then I can then, hopefully that by tailoring my approach to you, then that way I will get a better, more productive and kinder response from you. And that way too. And then I would also ask that, that we just have to do that for each other. Because, I know and this might be more on me because I tend to be the one to have to like, I guess I maybe more initiate these like quote unquote planning conversations, but because I'm more of the thinker about the thinking ahead. But in the event that it is you, I
would reach out to you and say, hey, Dani, do you have the time to talk right now? Like if I'm leading something, I'm not going to just assume that everyone's doing stuff differently. And the difference is you need the nerve to be able to do it, and I don't. Like if I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to ask a question. Like there is no like I have to have the right nerves or the right mindset to ask a question.
That's a good thing, but for me it's because it's more difficult because I spend, and not just with you, but you are obviously you're one of the high flyers in my brain when it comes to this. When I have to have certain conversations with people in my life about things that I think that they could potentially have a negative response to or an adverse response to, I start thinking about, so like the way you were thinking about scenarios about not drinking, Jesus Christ, staying up with the baby all night and then getting up and getting in an accident or whatever. I start playing out scenarios in my head too about like, if I say this to this person, they're going to it could go this way, it could go one of 6 different ways. And then I get anxious about that, and I think about as far as like what I'm gonna say, how I'm gonna say it, what words am I gonna use, what's the best method? Do I wait till they get home? We're in person. Do I wait until do I say we're texting? Do I call them on the phone? Do I FaceTime? And all those things run through my head to the point where I'm sometimes when I do feel like I have to say it, I have to just kind of like, to an extent, it has to just kind of just like I have to blurt it out or say it at the moment and say like, hey, I need to talk to you about this. This is what I'm thinking, or at least like be like, hey, this is all the stuff that I'm thinking. When you get a chance to read it and process it, let me know what you think, and then you can come back to me later with it. And you're not like that, and that sometimes probably leads to the arguments that you and I have had, because I'm very much like super tailoring my thoughts and curating my words, and you're just like, I'm just gonna say it. And that's why you get frustrated with me, because you feel like I send my representative, and I get frustrated with you because I feel like you don't have any like refinement to the things that you say to me, which is why sometimes they hurt my feelings. And so that's
because you want
where
me
we
to
have to both find a middle ground and like kind of maybe take a page from each other's book, and do that is maybe where my head is at about that.
Anything's possible.
Do you think that we would be better served to meet each other in the middle sometimes?
I mean, we could try to, but again, you're trying to map out something without knowing how it's going to work or anything like that. And again, that's when we get into these situations, because in your mind, TJ's supposed to do it this way because this is what I envisioned him to be, not like not what's right and who the person is.
But a plan doesn't mean that it's like, there are plans that you don't deviate from, and there are plans that you just like, there's like outlines. It's like, all right, this is like the big picture of what we're going to do, but we know that things could change. And at least when it comes to this particular topic of like kids and stuff like that, that's all really raising kids is. It's like you have an idea, but there's a lot of things you just deal with as they come because things change. Like we had a plan about how we were Tatum being in daycare till whatever, and then COVID hit, and then we had to pivot and we had to adjust. And so those are all examples of how we had to, like, the choice was taken from us in a sense.
Yeah,
and
I get that, but ultimately we have to be in a space where we give each other grace, and we can have the conversation. But again, you can't put your fears and the things that you have in your mind onto me and expect me to act the way that you would act. I don't expect Danielle to do the things that I do. I don't come to you and be like, Danielle, how did you do this? Because this is how I would have done it.
No, you don't expect me to do it in that way. I think I can't expect you to be like, this is exactly what we're going to do, and be very like plan oriented. But I also say the same thing in return, is that you can't expect me to just be like, we'll figure it out when we get there. Well,
I didn't say that you should. Never mind.
I mean,
that's how you interpret it.
It's a little bit more. Your approach gives me a little bit more like fly by the seat of my pants kind of, and I think we just have to meet in the middle and try to find a common ground.
We can definitely try to. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm not saying that we can't. But what I am saying is that your approach has to change. You can't put who Danielle is on TJ, because TJ is not Danielle.
I don't expect you to be. No.
You don't, but you do, because you have an expectation of this. You have an expectation of this is what Danielle would do, so TJ should do it too, because this is what Danielle would do. Whereas TJ would say, this is what TJ would do, but Danielle's a different person, so let's see how I can get her to try to do the things that I would do it, or let me see what she's going to do, and then we'll work it that way.
Okay. And I can understand that, and I can agree to try to be more like, what's your thoughts, what would you like to do, talk to you about, like, okay, are you in the space to have this conversation, and do all of those things. And also I would ask in return is to, just, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse by saying, like, just trying to meet me halfway with some of that, because because also know that, like,
I know,
sometimes
but you make it seem like I don't meet you halfway.
It's not that you do
because
sometimes. There's no all or nothing. Like, there's no always or never. There's no superlatives in this. But I think sometimes too, is, and again, this is something that I'm working on, but I think because of the dynamics of who we are as individuals, sometimes, and I can admit that maybe sometimes I try to overcompensate because I'm like, maybe I feel like, okay, TJ, there have been times in the past with certain things where like you didn't give something enough thought. And then
that happens all the time.
It happens all the time. So sometimes
it's not that
I feel like
it's not that I didn't give it enough thought. I gave it enough thought for what I thought it was. I didn't think about the what ifs. I didn't think about the other stuff. But for you to say that I didn't give it enough thought is like
it's to say like giving it like, okay, so you gave it enough thought. So I'll amend my statement. There's been other situations we've been in the past where you've given something enough thought for what you thought it needed, and let's say you tell me that, you share that with me, and then I'm like, there's been times like I know in my heart of hearts that there is more to it than what you've considered. So then I'm trying to like give you that insight and provide you with that additional thinking, but then sometimes maybe you interpret it as I'm trying to like overthink it or plan too much or whatever. So it's like I think it depending on the situation, every scenario or every like hypothetical we've talked about this episode has been true. I have overthought things. You have underthought things. There's also been times where like you thought through something up until the point that of your understanding, and then in my understanding, if I have more of it, then there's things that I wanted to offer because I've considered, like you might have A through D, and I'm like, and I've got E, F, and G. And so I just want to add on E, F, and G. And it's not that I'm overthinking it. I'm just telling you from my experience or from my purview or from what I know or whatever, there's more to it.
I mean,
so it depends.
I think it goes back to approach. And I think that sometimes your approach is not the best personally. But maybe that's
when it comes to like planning stuff.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes your approach is not the most like direct approach, but again, you just stated it. Your thing is like, I just got to say it regardless, so I don't even care how I'm saying it because I just needed to get it out.
Well, I care about how I'm saying it. I just need to, but I have to say it in the moment that I finally have the nerve to say it. I'm trying to say it as curated, as well thought out, as well as in the best way possible, so that it could be received the best by whomever I'm talking to. But it's just that if I don't strike while the iron is hot as far as finding the nerve to say it, sometimes I won't say it, and then I will just swallow it and move on, or I will let other people dictate what is happening, or I won't share my thoughts and things like that. It's been a lifelong problem for me, and it's hard, and we've talked about it in therapy, because it's like I've gotten very good at, for lack of a better term, at being comfortable with being the uncomfortable person in a room, in a situation, in a dynamic, whatever, with you, with relatives, with friends, people that matter to me. Somewhere in my back of my mind, I equate being uncomfortable with making that, like, okay, if I'm uncomfortable, at least that means everybody else is okay and is comfortable. And so
this is when ice comes in. One of us is gonna be uncomfortable. It's never gonna be me.
Which is the other end of the spectrum, which has its merits but also has its downsides.
I know, but at the end of the day, if you're living in your truth or you're speaking in your truth, it doesn't matter because you're speaking. Ultimately, you're speaking in your truth. So you may say something and it may offend somebody, but if you know that you wasn't trying to be offensive, that's not your problem. That's that person's problem to have to deal with.
And that is, in theory, that's 100% right. But in the moment, sometimes it's like if you upset someone that you care about, and now they're mad at you, or now they're yelling at you, or now they don't want to talk to you, or now they're talking about you, any of those combinations, right? Those things then become an issue, and it's
those something things only become an issue if you want to make sure that people that your trying to please people.
Well, and people pleasing is something I am working on and have been working on. I'm better than what I used to be, but I still have a long way to go and not trying to be as much of a people pleaser. I try to people please you. I try to people please
and I've
my
told
mom,
you multiple
my
times,
sister,
I don't
my
need
friends.
you to people please me.
I know you don't, but I also know that
I need the honesty. Like, I need to know that you're going to give me the truth and not bullshit me personally.
Well, and
that's and again, that's just what I need. I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, I'm always going to respect the shooter.
I understand that, and I'm gonna say that I'm working on that. But and maybe to my detriment, what I've done to try and find like my own internal middle ground is like, okay, I'm gonna speak my truth, but I'm gonna try and speak it in the most palatable way that TJ can interpret it, the most palatable way that my friend can interpret it, the most palatable way that my other relative or whatever can interpret it.
By you thinking that way, it may not be palatable to me.
Yeah,
you're trying to curate it to be a certain way.
I'm trying to get the best possible response out of you.
I get that, but if we talked about it yesterday, and now you come back a week later, and it's the same conversation, but now you're asking it a different way. Now my guard is up because I'm like, we just talked about this. So what is your motive? What changed? Those are the differences, as opposed to just having a fucking conversation.
Well, I can understand.
Have you ever just had the conversation?
With you or with anybody?
With anybody. I'm gonna say
sure,
no.
At some times in my lifetime, yes, but but very rarely. Very rarely. Because it's a thing of like,
I can't think of no time that with us that you've just been out and open. This is what came to my mind. This is what I want to talk about. Period.
That's probably a very rare occurrence that's happened with us. I mean, in 17 years, it's probably happened at least once. But it definitely, I can't even think of it right now. So I'm just going off of like statistics at this point. But the odds are that it's happened at least once. But the thing I'm saying though too is that I also operate out of like, if I'm worried about the response that I get, that also makes me be very guarded in my approach. And so I'm not saying that it's right, and I'm not saying that it's fair or anything else like that, but it's part of
I'm saying for me,
the things that I'm working on.
For your approach with me, I don't need the fake. I don't need palatable. I need you to be Danielle, who the way that you thought it is how you want to say it. That's what I need. So for our relationship, I don't care what you do with anybody else. If you got to make it palatable for everyone else, do that. But for me, I don't need that. I need you to tell me what it is at that time. Because again, if you tell me something A and then you go to B, in my mind, what changed? Who did you speak to? And then my mind starts going into guarding. I have to guard myself, protect myself, because we just talked about this conversation and now you're changing what changed. So for me, I need the honesty from jump.
Okay. And I can work on giving you that more, but I need from you is like an attempt to be like a more tempered version of yourself. If the honest and the blunt and the direct I'm trying to give you is something that you don't want to hear, or you have issues with, or you have questions about, because sometimes your responses can be very, audacious and loud and everything else like that. And that is who you are. And I understand that it's who you are, but it
you
also
truly don't though.
So this is me being like direct and
That's
honest
fair.
with you. And so I'm telling you that because when you respond negatively or in your kind of over the top way, sometimes it makes me my fight or flight reaction becomes to be like retreat, and then that means that then the conversation isn't there. So it's like, you need me to be more direct and honest and blunt about when I'm telling you what a thought or a feeling about whatever's going on in our world. But I also in return need from you to be able to receive it in a manner that you won't be as elevated as you can get sometimes. Because when that happens, I get very like I can't. I lose my train of thought. I don't have the words. I don't know how to come back from that. I don't know how to like it. It feels, even if I know you, and I know 99% of the time you don't mean for it to feel like an attack, but sometimes it feels like an attack. It feels like you're mad at me. It feels like I'm making you angry. So then it's like, well, shit, I fucked up, or I made him mad. So now I'm like, we're back at square one, where it's like I shouldn't have said nothing to begin with, because then that way I would have at least kept the peace. And
okay, so for you, it's about keeping the peace, and that's cool and all. But what's the sense of keeping the peace if you're going to be unhappy, or if I'm going to be unhappy?
Well, that's what I'm trying to work on, like, and I'm trying to figure.
There is no peace in that.
But you know, for what it's worth, that's my cross to bear, and why I have to figure out why that's such a deeply ingrained priority to me, that sometimes I can't even help myself to like, I will make myself as uncomfortable as I have to be for the sake of peace amongst everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure that out.
I do, but I also would, you know, ask for grace and support and understanding as I'm trying to work on those things as well, because it's hard to do. It's hard for all of us to work on whatever our thing is, you know. For you, it could be like not getting loud when you feel strongly about something, because it's not that you're yelling at a person, but you elevate your voice, and then it may your points get lost sometimes because your delivery is a certain way. But you know, that has to be, if that's something that you, at least I'm not going to assume, but if that's something you care to work on, if that's something you care to, then
I care to work on it because it bothers you. So it doesn't
bother you.
No, I'm
okay.
Anyone who knows me knows that I laugh loud, I sneeze loud. I'm a loud person. So there's a difference between me yelling at somebody and me just being loud. But again, if it offends someone who I care about, then will I change for that person? I'll try my best.
Okay.
But my voice is elevated right now. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm nothing. But when I'm talking, when I'm passionate about stuff, my voice gets raised. But if someone who I've been with for 17 years doesn't realize that there's a difference between it, then I have to change, right? Because
and I know that
you're a crier. I know that you're a crier. I don't care that you cry. I accept you for who you are. You don't accept me for who I am. I
accept you for who you are, and you accept me for who I am. But there are parts of each of us that harm or affect negatively our relationship with each other. And so,
in what way? What do you mean?
So, I am by nature a people pleaser, a person who's going to do what it takes to keep the peace. That negatively impacts our relationship because you feel like I'm not being as forthcoming and upfront as you would like me to be. So that has an impact on our relationship. The things that make us, even if it's the good, bad, or the ugly.
I don't think so. Then I don't think that you're a people pleaser as much as you think. You may be a people pleaser for the people that you like, but if you don't like somebody, you're not gonna go out your way.
But this I can name 2 people that I don't like in this whole world.
Okay, now. But
so it's so rare.
Okay.
So yeah, 100%. If I don't like you, if I have no feelings towards you, good, bad, or indifferent, then no, it's not hard for me to not be a people pleaser. So it's the people that matter to me.
All right then. So if someone is telling you, if I matter to you and I'm telling you I need you to be honest, and you're still trying to hold back from being honest, then it's kind of like weird. But okay.
Okay. And if I matter to you and I'm telling you that I need you to temper your response to my honesty, I
know.
I'm just making sure.
I literally just said that I'm willing to try to change myself because it bothers you.
I heard you.
That's what I said.
I know, but I'm just countering what you said because it's like there's a parallel there. That's all I'm trying to say is like for us and for our listeners, there are 2. The things that we're asking of each other are very much deeply intertwined, and that's all. So I'm not trying to say it to say
they are, but they're not, because I'm not asking you to stop crying. I'm not asking you to change your emotions of who you are, because again, I accept you for who you are. You're asking me to change because it bothers you, so I have to change. There's a difference.
But you're also asking me to be more direct and blunt when I talk to you, and that's not my natural inclination. So that's because it bothers you, so you're asking me to change that. I'm also working on that as well.
Okay. I guess.
We both have an ask of each other.
My ask is for you to be honest with me. I'm asking you to be honest with me about things because you are not always honest, because you want to people please and all this other stuff. And all you do by doing that is make the situation worse because of what I stated earlier. That's different than me saying, Danielle's a crier, change your fucking crying. When me and you talk, don't fucking cry. That's a difference. That's a total different situation than me saying, can you be honest with me? Because in our relationship, when you're not honest, or if it feels like you're not being honest, I get guarded. I feel like that's two major different things. But you're reflecting to make it like, well, you're asking me to be honest, so that's asking me to change who I am. And I feel like they're two totally different things. But
okay,
I digress.
You're not digressing. It's still very much on topic. So I hear you, and I will be. And let me be clear. I'm always trying to be honest with you, but I do try to make it like soft. And
I don't need no one to be soft.
I understand that. So I will continue to work on being a more direct in my approach when I have these conversations with you, regardless of if I perceive them to be difficult or uncomfortable conversations, or if I know they will be different. Because if we both know they'll be difficult or uncomfortable conversations, so
Well, any conversation where people aren't like hugging and kumbaya, and you're gonna feel like it's a difficult conversation.
But then that's part of my process that I have to work on and figure out, and why sometimes it's difficult for me to be as direct or as blunt as you would prefer. Gotcha. Because that's just, again, I'm not gonna say that's just my burden to bear, and why I have to unpack. I am continuing to unpack it. I am continuing to work on that, but we're gonna make progress. We're gonna slip and fall. We're gonna have stumbles, but we're gonna it might be incremental progress, but it'll be progress nonetheless. I think on both of our parts. So I don't know. That's just how I guess ultimately how I feel. It's like I'm committed to trying. I may not always be successful with it, but I am committed to trying. It make me anxious, but I'm committed to trying. It may lead to arguments with you and I, which I hate arguing, but I am committed to trying. So I think that's kind of all I have left.
That's all I have, so.
How are you feeling right now?
Okay, I guess. I don't...
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because, again, if we start talking, we're going to go into a whole nother thing,
we could leave it there. I just was just trying to do a check-in. That's all.
Yeah. See, you see, you're trying to people please again. I don't need you to check on me. Like, I'm good. And by you doing that, it makes it like it's bigger than what it was. Like, we had a conversation, and I don't know. You always do this thing where it's like, we'll have a conversation, we're talking about whatever, and because I point out something on you, for you not to be like outdone, you gotta find a way to make it like, well, it's both of us. Like, it's never like Danielle's gonna be like, you know what? I hear him loud and clear, cool. Nope. Well, you said this about me, so let me throw something back out there. And that's frustrating a lot of the times. Like, you want to win, but you don't want to win. Like, you want to win, but you really don't want to battle or anything like that. You just don't want to... I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. Well, I I won't combat or retort that perception or that claim that you have about me. So I'm gonna own
you can do whatever you want. It's not.
I own that I need to stop trying to people please. I own that I have to work on like my approach with like serious conversations or planning conversations, however you want to call it, and making sure that like you're feeling included, and then also that you're that your thoughts are heard. I will own that like I need to, good, bad, or ugly, I have to be as direct and as honest and as blunt with you as I need to be for whatever.
I respect shooters.
So I will work to become a better shooter. Well, I guess, this has been a longer episode than normal. Hopefully you guys gained a lot or have thoughts and are still listening at this point. And we'll stop there. So, you guys, this has been another episode of Lovers Quarrel. You know that you can find us on Instagram at Lovers Quarrel Show, on Twitter at Lovers Quarrel 7, or email us your questions, comments, thoughts, headaches, heartaches at loversquarrelshow@gmail.com. And as always, I'm your girl Dani.
And I'm your guy TJ.
And you know that we fuss.
And we fight. But we love. Bye. I still love you.
I love you too.
That was definitely no affection in that.
This was me being zen.
Got you. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.